I never thought I'd be standing in the kitchen of the cottage my wife and I built together, watching security camera footage of my daughter-in-law staging a photo shoot with fake condemned property signs. But there I was, 48 hours after burying my wife Margaret, learning exactly what kind of person had married into our family. Let me back up. Margaret and I bought the land on Lake Geneva in 1987. 28 acres of Wisconsin shoreline that her grandfather had sold during the Depression, land that had been in her family for 3 generations before that. When it came back on the market, Margaret cried. Not sad tears, happy ones. She said it felt like her grandfather was giving her a second chance. We couldn't afford to build right away. I was just starting my dental practice, and Margaret was teaching elementary school. So we spent summers camping on the property, drawing plans in the dirt with sticks, arguing about whether the kitchen should face east or west. Margaret always won those arguments. She usually won most arguments, come to think of it. It took us 11 years to save enough. We broke ground in 1998. Margaret designed every detail: the wide front porch where we'd watch storms roll across the lake, the stone fireplace using rocks from her grandfather's original foundation, the window seat in the master bedroom where she could read and see the water. She picked out paint colors, argued with contractors about the angle of the roof, planted 2 sugar maples by the driveway that she said would shade our grandchildren someday. We moved in on our 30th anniversary. Best day of my life. Watching Margaret walk through that front door she dreamed about for over a decade. We had 14 good years there. Summers with our daughter Sarah and her family. Thanksgivings with Margaret's famous apple pie. Quiet mornings on the porch with coffee and crosswords. Margaret's maples grew tall enough to shade the driveway, just like she said. Then the diagnosis came. Pancreatic cancer, stage 4. The doctor said 6 months, maybe 8. Margaret made it 11. Stubborn until the end. She died on a Tuesday morning in March. I was holding her hand. Her last words were about the cottage, something about making sure the gutters got cleaned before spring rains. That was Margaret, practical even at the end. The funeral was on Friday. Small service, just how she wanted. Sarah and her husband Rebecca were there, of course. They'd driven up from Chicago the week before and stayed through everything. I appreciated that. At least, I thought I did. Saturday morning, I woke up in the cottage alone for the first time in 14 years. The silence was crushing. I made coffee, sat in Margaret's window seat, looked at the lake. I don't know how long I sat there. Hours, maybe. My phone rang around noon. Sarah. Dad? How are you holding up? I'm okay, sweetheart. Just, it's quiet. I know, Dad. Listen, Rebecca and I were talking. We're worried about you being out there alone. Maybe you should think about spending more time in town. The cottage is pretty isolated. I like the quiet. Reminds me of your mother. A pause. Then, well, actually, that's kind of what we wanted to talk to you about. Rebecca has an idea that might be really good for you. Can we come by tomorrow? Sunday afternoon? I should have heard something in her voice. That careful tone you use when you're about to ask for something big. But I was too tired, too sad. I just said, sure, come by. They showed up at 2 o'clock Sunday. Rebecca was carrying a leather portfolio, which should have been my second warning sign. Nobody brings a portfolio to a casual family visit. We sat on the porch. Sarah poured lemonade from the pitcher Margaret always kept in the fridge. I'd made it that morning. Muscle memory. Dad, Sarah started. Rebecca has been working really hard on her lifestyle brand. You know she's up to almost 200,000 followers on Instagram now? I nodded. I didn't really understand what that meant, but I knew Rebecca was always on her phone, always taking pictures of things. Margaret used to joke that Rebecca documented more than she actually lived. Rebecca leaned forward, all enthusiasm. Richard, I've been thinking about this for a while, but I didn't want to bring it up while Margaret was sick. But now, well, I think this could be really healing for everyone. What could be healing? This cottage. It's absolutely perfect for content creation. The aesthetic, the lake views, the vintage charm, my followers would go crazy for this. I'm talking about turning this into a content house. My home base for lifestyle content, entertaining, seasonal decorating, All of it. I stared at her. Content house? It's where influencers create their content, Sarah explained quickly. Rebecca would essentially run her business from here. She'd redecorate, of course, update some things. Redecorate? Just modernize, Rebecca said. That wallpaper in the dining room is very dated, and the furniture is kind of heavy. I'm thinking light, airy, Scandinavian minimalism. It would photograph beautifully. My chest felt tight. That wallpaper was Margaret's favorite. She'd special ordered it from a company in Vermont. The furniture was from her grandmother. Rebecca, this is my home. This is where Margaret and I know, Rebecca interrupted, and I totally respect that, which is why I'm not suggesting we change everything. Just refresh it. And honestly, Richard, you're not really using the space to its full potential. You're one person in a 4-bedroom house. Margaret wouldn't want you rattling around here alone, getting depressed. Something cold settled in my stomach. Don't tell me what Margaret would want. Sarah put her hand on mine. Dad, Rebecca didn't mean it like that. We're just worried. And this could actually be good for you. Rebecca's business is really taking off. She could pay you rent, help with maintenance costs. I don't need rent money. No, but you're going to be paying property taxes, utilities, upkeep all by yourself now, Rebecca said. That's expensive for a place this size. And honestly, with me here creating content, it would actually appreciate in value. Properties that have been featured in lifestyle content sell for 20 to 30% more. I'd essentially be investing in your asset. By changing my wife's house. By updating it, Rebecca corrected. Look, Richard, I get that you're emotional right now. That's completely normal. But from a practical standpoint, this makes sense. I'm offering you 10% of all revenue generated from content created here, plus covering my portion of utilities and maintenance. You'd essentially be making passive income from a property you barely use half the year anyway. And the best part? You'd be getting exposure. My followers are mostly women, 25 to 45, high income, exactly the demographic that appreciates authentic family stories. Your dental practice could. I'm retired. Oh, right. Well, then you'd just be getting the income and the satisfaction of knowing Margaret's cottage is being preserved and showcased to hundreds of thousands of people. I looked at Sarah, my daughter, who grew up in this cottage every summer, who'd helped her mother pick out those light fixtures, who'd carved her initials in that oak tree by the shore. You're okay with this? I asked. She wouldn't meet my eyes. I think it could be good, Dad. For everyone. And Rebecca's right, you're going to be lonely out here. At least with her here part-time, you'd have family around. Family. The word felt wrong in my mouth. I need to think about it, I said. Rebecca's smile tightened just slightly. Of course. Take all the time you need. But just so you know, I've already started talking to some brands about potential partnerships. There's a furniture company that would probably sponsor a complete cottage makeover if I could guarantee the content. We're talking about maybe $50,000 in free furniture and decor. That would be split 90 to 10, obviously, since I'd be doing all the work. But your 10% would be $5,000 just for letting me redecorate. That's basically free money, Richard. They left an hour later. Rebecca had shown me a whole presentation on her tablet mock-ups of how the cottage could look, engagement metrics, revenue projections. Sarah hugged me on her way out. Just think about it, Dad. Rebecca really does have a good business sense. I sat on the porch until dark, drinking the lemonade, watching the lake. Margaret's maples rustled in the wind. I didn't think about it. I tried to forget the whole conversation, but Rebecca didn't let me forget. Monday morning, my phone started ringing. Rebecca, asking if I'd thought it over. I said I needed more time. She said, of course, but mentioned she'd been contacted by a major lifestyle magazine interested in doing a feature on multi-generational cottage living. The exposure would be incredible. Could she at least take some preliminary photos? I said no. Tuesday, Sarah called. Rebecca was disappointed that I wasn't being more open-minded. Didn't I want to see Margaret's legacy preserved, shared with the world? And honestly, Dad, you're going to get lonely out there. Having Rebecca around could be good for you. Wednesday, Rebecca texted me links to articles about aging in place and the dangers of isolation for widowers. Subtle, Thursday, she sent me a revised proposal. 15% revenue share. She'd even keep some of Margaret's furniture for authenticity. Friday morning, exactly 1 week after Margaret's funeral, I woke up to find Rebecca's car in my driveway. I walked outside. She was taking pictures of the cottage from different angles, professional camera in hand. "Morning, Richard," she waved cheerfully. "Hope you don't mind. I was in the area and thought I'd get some reference photos. The lighting is perfect right now." "I do mind." "Oh, it's just photos. I won't post anything without your permission. But I've been thinking, even if you don't want to do the full content house thing, maybe we could start smaller? I could do a feature on honoring lost loved ones through home design. Very tasteful, very respectful. Margaret's story would really resonate with my followers. Young wife, cancer, devoted husband, there's not a dry eye in the house with material like that. Material? Content, I mean. You know what I mean." She was still smiling. "I think Margaret would have loved knowing her story was inspiring people." "Stop talking about my wife." The smile faltered. "Richard, I'm trying to help you here. This cottage is literally sitting here doing nothing. It's a waste. You're here by yourself, probably depressing yourself, looking at all of Margaret's things. At least let me make something positive out of get off my property." "Excuse me? This is my home, Margaret's home, and I'm asking you to leave." She stared at me for a long moment. Then she put her camera in her bag, very deliberately. "You know what? Fine. But you're being incredibly short-sighted. This cottage is wasted on you. You're going to sit here alone, getting older, letting this place fall apart because you're too sentimental to see a good opportunity. Margaret built this place for family. I am family, and I'm the only one who actually has a vision for it." She drove away. I stood in the driveway for a long time after her car disappeared. That weekend was quiet. No calls from Sarah. No texts from Rebecca. I should have known it was too quiet. Monday morning, I drove into town for groceries. When I got back 3 hours later, there was a locksmith's van in my driveway. A young guy was installing new locks on my front door. "Excuse me," I said. "What are you doing?" He looked up, confused. "Installing new locks?" The lady said the old ones were sticking. "What lady?" The homeowner? She said her name was Rebecca Sullivan. "Rebecca doesn't own this home." "I do." His face went white. "Oh, shit." She said she had keys. She said she'd just bought the place and wanted to upgrade security before moving in. She paid in advance. How much did she pay you? $300. Look, man, if there's some kind of dispute, there's no dispute. She lied to you. Stop what you're doing. He packed up fast, apologizing, saying he'd refund Rebecca. Something about checking property records first. I waved him off. It wasn't his fault. I went inside. Nothing looked disturbed, but something felt wrong. I checked the spare bedroom Margaret had used as an office. Her desk had been moved. The papers on it were rearranged. My phone rang. "Rebecca." "Richard, hi. Just wanted to let you know I had the locks changed. Security upgrade. I know we haven't finalized all the details yet, but I figured it was a good proactive step, especially with you being out there alone. I'll get you a new set of keys next time You tried to change the locks on my house. Our house, eventually. Once we get the paperwork. There is no paperwork. There will never be paperwork. This is my house. My wife's house." "Okay. Wow. You're clearly still in a very emotional place, which I understand, but I've already started making commitments based on this cottage. I have a furniture sponsor lined up. I've scheduled a photographer. I've told my followers to expect major cottage content. You can't just back out now and make me look unprofessional. I never agreed to anything. You didn't say no. I'm saying it now. No. Stay away from my property. Richard, be reasonable. Sarah and I have talked about this extensively. She agrees with me that this is the best use of the space. And as Margaret's daughter, she has a say in what happens to her mother's legacy. Sarah has no ownership of this property. Not legally, maybe, but morally, this cottage is as much hers as it is yours. You're being selfish, Richard. You're letting your grief make you selfish." I hung up. 10 minutes later, Sarah called. "Dad, Rebecca just called me very upset. What is going on? She tried to change the locks on my house. She was trying to help with security. You're out there alone, and those old locks are... Sarah, she's trying to take over my home. No, she's trying to create something beautiful that honors Mom. Why are you being so stubborn about this? Why are you letting your wife disrespect your mother's memory? Silence. Then, that's not fair, Dad, isn't it? She hung up on me. I sat in Margaret's window seat, looking at the lake. The maples were budding. Spring was coming. Margaret had loved spring here. I made a decision. Tuesday morning, I drove to Best Buy and spent $2,000 on security cameras. Ring brand, 4 exterior cameras, 2 interior. The sales kid helped me set them up that afternoon. Front door, back door, driveway. One covering the porch, one in the living room, one in Margaret's office. I linked everything to my phone. Motion detection alerts, cloud storage, the works. Then I called my lawyer, Jim Bradshaw. He and Margaret had been friends since college. Jim, I need some documentation. If something happens to me, I want it crystal clear that this cottage goes to Sarah, but only Sarah. Specifically excluding any claim from her spouse. Can you draft that? Of course. Everything okay, Richard? Just being careful. Wednesday was quiet. Thursday was quiet. I started to think maybe Rebecca had given up. Friday afternoon, I got a motion alert on my phone. Driveway camera. Rebecca's car. She got out with another woman I didn't recognize. They were both carrying stuff, cleaning supplies, paint samples, measuring tape. I watched on my phone. They walked up to the front door. Rebecca tried her old key. It didn't work, obviously. She tried it again. She said something to the other woman, who laughed. Then Rebecca walked to the window, cupped her hands around her eyes, and looked inside. She took out her phone and started taking pictures through the window. I was in my car, 15 minutes away, getting dinner. I watched for another minute. Then I called the police non-emergency line. Hi, I'd like to report someone trespassing on my property. No, I'm not there right now. Yes, I have video. They're looking through my windows and taking pictures. The dispatcher said they'd send someone. I drove home. By the time I got there, Rebecca and her friend were gone. There was a note on my door. Richard stopped by to take some measurements for the furniture sponsor. I know you're still processing everything, but time is money in this industry. I need to move forward with or without your official blessing. The exposure this cottage is going to get will benefit everyone. I'll be back Monday with the photographer. Please don't make this difficult. This is happening. Rebecca, this is happening. I called Jim again. How fast can you draft a cease and desist? If it's urgent, tomorrow morning. Make it urgent. Saturday, I had the cease and desist. It was very clear. Rebecca Sullivan had no permission to access, photograph, or make any claims about the property at 428 Lakeshore Drive. Any further trespassing would result in legal action. I emailed it to her. I texted it to Sarah. Sarah called me within 5 minutes. Dad, this is insane. You're sending legal threats to my wife? Your wife is threatening to trespass on my property. She's trying to create a business opportunity. She doesn't have my permission. You're being ridiculous. Mom would be so disappointed in you right now. That hit harder than I expected. Don't you dare. It's true. Mom always said family should support each other. Rebecca is family, and you're treating her like a criminal just because you're too stuck in the past to see a good opportunity. Is that what you think this is? An opportunity? Yes. God, Dad, don't you see? This cottage could be famous. Mom's cottage, seen by hundreds of thousands of people. Isn't that better than you sitting here alone, dying slowly? I hung up. That night, I didn't sleep. I sat on the porch with Margaret's Afghan, watching the security feeds on my phone, waiting. Nothing happened Sunday. Monday morning, motion alert. 9:47 a.m. 2 cars, Rebecca's, and a white van with Lux Living Photography on the side. Rebecca got out, followed by the photographer woman from before, plus a man with professional camera equipment and lighting cases. They walked right up to the front door. Rebecca knocked, looking at the camera. She knew I was watching. Richard, we know you're in there. Or watching, at least. Look, I got your cease and desist. Very dramatic. But here's the thing. I've already committed to this project. This photographer flew in from Denver. My sponsor is expecting content by Wednesday. So we're going to take some exterior shots, and then we're going to need to get inside. You can either let us in, or, well, we'll figure something out. She tried the door. Locked. She said something to the photographer guy. He nodded. I watched him walk back to the van. He pulled out what looked like a crowbar. I was already in my car. Rebecca. The camera picked up the photographer woman saying, "Are you sure about this? If he presses charges?" "He won't. He's all bark. And anyway, worst case, it's a misdemeanor trespassing. The content we'll get is worth it. My lawyer said as long as we don't steal anything or cause major damage, it's basically a fine. I can afford a fine." The photographer guy walked back with the crowbar. He looked uncomfortable. "Look, I really don't want to. Just pop the lock on the back door. Quick in, quick out. We'll be done in an hour." I was 5 minutes away. I called 911 this time. "Someone is attempting to break into my home. I have video evidence. They're currently at my back door with a crowbar. Are you in the home, sir?" "No, but I'm 2 minutes away. Please send someone immediately." I pulled into my driveway at the same moment the photographer guy was jimmying the back door. The three of them froze when they saw me. "Richard." Rebecca's smile was forced. "You're here?" "Great. We were just breaking into my home?" "No, we were okay. Look, the door was sticking, and I thought maybe." "Step away from my house." The photographer guy dropped the crowbar like it was hot. "Lady, you said you had permission." "I do. He's just being difficult because 2 police cars pulled in behind me." The next 30 minutes were very satisfying. Rebecca tried explaining about the family dispute and misunderstanding and content creation deadlines. The photographer duo immediately threw her under the bus, showing texts where Rebecca had explicitly said she had permission to access the property. The police were not impressed. "Ma'am, do you have any ownership documents for this property?" "No, but I'm family, and we had an understanding." "An understanding isn't permission, Mr. Sullivan. Do you want to press charges?" I looked at Rebecca. Her perfect influencer makeup was starting to run. She looked younger suddenly, and desperate, and I almost felt sorry for her. Almost. "Yes," I said. "I want to press charges." They arrested her for attempted breaking and entering. The photographers left fast, apologizing profusely. I stood in my driveway, watching the police car drive away with Rebecca in the back. My phone rang. Sarah. "Dad, what the hell? The police just called me. Rebecca's been arrested? She tried to break into my house. Because you wouldn't let her in." "Jesus, Dad, this is so out of proportion. She was just trying to take some pictures." "You've ruined her business relationship with this photographer. You've embarrassed her in front of sponsors. Do you have any idea how much damage you've caused?" "I've caused?" "Yes. You're the one who—" She stopped, took a breath. "I can't do this right now. I need to go bail out my wife. Because my father had her arrested for trying to spend time in my dead mother's cottage." "That's what you think this was? Her trying to spend time here?" "I think you're a bitter old man who's determined to make everyone as miserable as you are." She hung up. I sat on the porch for a long time. The maples rustled. Margaret's wind chimes rang softly. I pulled up the security footage from earlier. Watched Rebecca tell the photographer that breaking in was worth the fine. Watched her justify it as just trespassing. Watched her dismiss my ownership, my grief, Margaret's memory, as obstacles to content. I downloaded the video, saved multiple copies. Then I called Jim. "I need restraining order paperwork, and I'm changing my will. Sarah is no longer inheriting this property." "Richard, are you sure? She's your daughter, and she just told me I'm a bitter old man for not letting her wife turn her mother's cottage into a photo studio." Jim was quiet. "Then I'll draft the paperwork." The criminal charges against Rebecca were eventually dropped to a misdemeanor. She pleaded guilty, paid a fine, and got probation. The judge was not sympathetic when she tried explaining about content creation schedules. Sarah didn't speak to me for 3 months. When she finally called, her voice was quiet. "Dad, can I come see you?" She came alone. We sat on the porch, not talking, for a long time. Rebecca and I are getting divorced, she finally said. I didn't say anything. I found out she'd been telling people, her followers, her sponsors, that she owned this cottage, that it was her family estate. She'd been using photos of it, telling stories about growing up here, stories about Mom. She was selling Mom's cancer story to sell skincare products. Sarah started crying. I didn't know, Dad. I swear I didn't know it had gone that far. I thought she just wanted to use the cottage for some photos. I didn't realize she was trying to take it, that she saw Mom as content. I put my arm around her. She leaned into me, like she used to when she was little. I'm sorry, she whispered. I'm so sorry. We sat there while the sun went down over the lake. Margaret's maples whispered overhead. I'm not changing the will back, I said quietly. Not yet. I understand. But you're always welcome here. This is your mother's house. Your house. Just yours. Not anyone else's. Okay, Dad. We sat together in the quiet, watching the water, while the cottage, Margaret's cottage, our cottage, stood solid and unchanged behind us. 6 months later, Sarah helped me plant a new tree. A flowering dogwood, Margaret's favorite. We planted it on the south side of the house, where it would get morning sun. Mom would like this, Sarah said. Yeah, I agreed. She would. Rebecca's Instagram account eventually disappeared. I heard through Sarah that she'd rebranded, moved to California, married someone else. I didn't look her up, didn't care to. The cottage is still here, still mine, still Margaret's. And sometimes, on quiet mornings, I sit in the window seat with my coffee and watch the sunrise over the lake, and I swear I can hear Margaret saying she told me so about those gutters. I cleaned them last week. The maples are tall now, plenty of shade for grandchildren. If Sarah ever has any, they'll always be welcome here. That's what Margaret would have wanted.